Hey, how is everybody? Yeah, I realised it's been a while since the last KSP stream even, and this is one of those days when, for various reasons, my plan to do a video has not really taken off. I've gotten halfway, I got everything recorded and then edited together, but mostly because I didn't sleep very well last night. I know that actually trying to sit down and do the bit where I talk over all the stuff I've recorded, it would not go well. So instead I decided to stream where I can just waffle as much as I like and nobody really minds. So I've done a little bit of tinkering with the modded build. I've now actually put together a more or less complete mod list. It's not 100% everything because there are several things that are kind of dependencies of other mods, so rather than list them separately, I've tried to, by memory, go with the things that just are required. And then some of the stuff, you know, requires you to go and get other mods besides. Because if you download the things separately, they're not necessarily the versions that you need. Mostly it's the visual mods that go with Galileo Planet Pack. It comes with its own version of the EVE mod, and I think it's got Scatterer as a bundled thing, and maybe one or two of the others as well. But yeah, in the main, most of the important mods are there. Most of the mods I have installed are actually there. So yeah, that's something that will go under the YouTube video of the VOD as a link as well. So yeah, let me show you what I've been tinkering with. And I haven't been playing this a huge amount, but I've been playing it a little bit. It's mostly been like building spacecraft and doing a little bit of testing to make sure they're not going to explode horribly. So what I did, where are we? Well, firstly, I'll show you a very silly thing that I did because I was just mucking around with tweak scale, and it's not particularly cost efficient because expanding things with tweak scale never is. But I just wanted to make a really small craft that could go to orbit, and I did, and it's basically scaled up toroidal tanks because the toroidal tanks are kind of OP in that they can carry a pretty decent amount of fuel for the amount of space they take up, and if you scale them up, well, they get expensive. But yeah, this is scaled up to 1.25 meter size, and this is more than capable of going up to orbit and basically doing rendezvous operations with craft that are already up there in terms of rescuing people. It can't dock because it doesn't have a docking port, but it can go and intercept a capsule that's up there and rescue an astronaut for a contract. And then I was thinking, well, you know, I can do that, and then why not make a bigger one that can be even more compact because it's 2.5 meter size, and this particular capsule can hold 3 people. So I think it's 3 people anyway. Just double check. No, it's only 2 people. So this one, I think in theory, has enough delta V to get up there and then go and pick up 2 people and come back. So yes. Also, how's everyone in the chat doing? How many people have we got? Brett. And who else? Suppressed Echo, hello, welcome. Sleece, Latika Mafia, Chaser. Yeah, I saw here Quickie Baby's video about tier 10 light tanks. I really haven't been paying that much attention to the World of Tanks stuff, but honestly, like World of Tanks is I've actually not even been paying that much attention to the upcoming warship stuff, to be honest, recently. But more so than World of Tanks. So I'm aware that there are incoming tier 10 lights, but I haven't actually gone on test servers and played anything. And that's more just because downloading the test server clients is an absolute pain in the arse. And I've been playing a lot of Stellaris. That's probably the biggest reason, like, of the last week or so of me not paying any attention to anything, is I've been playing a lot of Stellaris because a viewer, Farberserker, gifted me the Utopia expansion. So I've been busy building ring worlds and Dyson spheres and things, and it's still, I might do a video on the Banks update and the Utopia DLC because it adds some good stuff, but the game is still missing an awful lot, and the next patch is going to be, it's just going to be a patch, and it's going to be purely bug fixes because the banks and Utopia have introduced a few issues, and it's also going to be UI improvements. Because compared to some of the other Paradox games, yeah, there are some significant deficiencies still. Anyway, so it's good thing you're here, Brett, because I can show you the Mark 1 Brett lander. So this was my first... Because what we're going to do today is we're going to go to the moons. We're definitely going to go to... I can't remember which one's CT and which one's Iota. But in theory, these landers can go to both. So we'll actually take this one up for the first voyage, I think. And see how it performs, because I know theoretically it's got enough delta V. It's got nearly 7,500 meters a second delta V. And then I was just, because I didn't want to do that mission offline, I then came up with the Hildebrand, the Mark II, and that's using one of these parts. And one of the impetuses for doing this is this part actually comes from Ven's stock revamp, which is a mod I added. After having, like, I did the bulk of the mods before I started this playthrough, and then that was one I saw used elsewhere, and it alters the size and shape of a couple of the stock parts. Others it just reskins them, but there's a couple that it actually does physically change the shape of. So there's a couple of satellites with very wonky looking solar panels, but it didn't actually break anything, so I decided just to go with it. Oh, red band, okay, that's a bit unfortunate, but yeah, okay. I shall, well, hopefully by the time of the next one, you know, we'll sort something out. You know, you can always poke me on the Twitters or a Facebook message or something. Anyway, so yeah, but we'll go with the Brett first, because that, I think, that's the one I you know, designed first, so we might as well take it out for a spin. And even though it's a slightly more kludgy design, because this is a single capsule for 2 people. And this was still with basically the stock parts, because I don't have, or when I designed this I didn't have a 2-man capsule, but then with Ven's I did suddenly have a 2-man capsule available. So this is the revamped, the Mark 1 command pod, which is actually, that's one of the parts that did change size. And then it's a lander can. And I've done this in a style I've used previously, with basically kind of outboard, like, tanks with motors on, and it's probably not a particularly aerodynamically efficient design for taking off, but it means you can bring the bulk of your ship, like the important parts and the science bay, back with without having to make a great big stack, because you've got these things sticking off the side. This, by the way, this is definitely a design I've used before, putting the landing legs inside the bay. And that's one of the reasons why I've tested it, because sometimes things go a little wonky with the physics, and it can end up exploding itself. But no, the testing has shown that doesn't occur, fortunately. So yeah, those, in real life this would not work. You wouldn't do this. You wouldn't have 2 little girders with, you know. But in KSP, it's fine. KSP doesn't care. So before we do that, I'm going to just take a quick look at my contracts, and also maybe turn on the game music, because I quite like the game music. Yeah, struts. We used plenty of struts. All of the struts. So let's see. UI music. Let's bosh the music up to, let's say, 40%. Let's try 50. 50. Oh, well, we'll try 40, because 45, let's split the difference. Yeah, having the music is it's not too obtrusive in this game. There's a lot of games where I just turn the background music off, and then it always surprises me when I hear them playing the game with the background music, because I just never listen to it. And that's true for basically all the Paradox games. But usually when I'm playing something like CK2 just for fun, I've got, on my second screen, I've got YouTube videos or Netflix or something like that, or else I'm listening to something on the radio via an online player. So let's check out our contracts. I don't think I built anything new in the space plane hangar. We'll maybe take a little look there. But yeah. Oh, this is a thing we might also do. We've got a station building contract. I've been waiting for one of these. So it's just a basic builder, a core of a station. Now, because we've got a life support mod, at least to start with, it's going to mean while the station's manned, if I decide to have it permanently manned, it's going to mean running regular supply rockets. So it might not be permanently manned. I might have it manned for a little while and then bring the Kerbals back. But I've got another mod that goes along TAC Aerospace called it's something like Soylent. It's on the list anyway. And basically it exists to close the life support loop. So you can later on, once you unlock the parts, because obviously I'm doing this as a career, you basically they're basically like green solar panels. Like in terms of its actual parts that it adds, it's a little bit basic, but the idea is that you're using algae to recycle and generate oxygen and also generate stuff that you can turn into snacks. So it goes in alongside TAC Life Support. I think I had to download a little patch to make it work with TAC Life Support or something, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we've got a rescue mission, a couple of testing missions. I've got okay, the missions, the contracts that I've got are for Iota, so we're going to be going to Iota. I've got 3 Iota missions, 2 rescue missions, and some kind of miscellaneous ones, including some readjusting of satellites, because what I've been busy doing is I have been doing some launches. I've been basically building up a satellite network. So if we turn on the yeah, so not geosynchronous or anything like that, because I'm not clever enough for that, but I just bodged up a whole bunch of satellites with various relays. So we now have within the Gale system a functional satellite network that should provide sufficient coverage. So I've got basically along the equatorial plane, and then on the polar plane as well. So I've got a couple of like repositioning contracts there. I'll just briefly show you actually. I've got some scanning satellites up as well, because ScanSat is a mod that lets you get detailed biome information. Where are we? Let's take a look at the Iota ScanSat. Yeah, when you turn on the links, once you've started building those relays, yeah, it can get a bit mad with the number of links. So I don't normally have that turned on all the time. If you're using remote tech, that adds not just all that, but also signal delays as well. So anyway, yeah, this is a bit wonky looking, and this is because these solar panels are some of the parts that were changed by Ven's stock part revamp, and the game doesn't care. Parts on the same spacecraft can clip through each other like this, but they were sticking out the side quite happily, and then I put Vens on and it suddenly looked like this, but it's still functional, it still works how it's supposed to, so it doesn't matter. It can just look how it looks, and it's pretty much done its job at this point anyway, I think. That's Iota down there, by the way. I think we're in a fairly close orbit, but it looks rather more rumpled in places than the Mun does, so selecting a landing site will be quite interesting. So yeah, this is ScanSat up here, which is not going to show up well on 480p, but that shows that we've mapped the whole surface basically, because before you start doing that, it's just a kind of a blank, and you don't know anything about these places and any resources or the terrain or anything like that. So yeah, I've already done that. Also, you can get a bit of science out of these. You can, once you've done a complete scan of the surface, you can actually get a little bit of science out of it. The Thunderbirds, you probably could make Thunderbirds. Also, hey Foo, who else is here? Cyberwraith. So if there's any other additional names. Oh, there's like 20 plus people watching now. Yes, so we're going to have a quick look at the spaceplane hangar, because I might have maybe... I've done some upgrades as well. I mean, I've done 1 or 2 rescue contracts in the meantime. I've spent some money upgrading, so we're now not limited to 30 parts in the spaceplane hangar, and I think I upgraded the runway again. And yeah, so the Cyberwraith, the Turbo Cyber, we've changed the engines now. Still turboprops or whatever these are. because I've unlocked a couple of nodes in the tech tree as well. So it's a little bit cleaner looking, and it doesn't have the backs of those structural fuselages open any longer. I think I changed the cockpit as well, because I decided that cockpit gave a better view. Unfortunately, of course, with the fire spitter parts, it still has that annoying audio bug. I think the Doom Dart is exactly the same. I don't think we changed the Doom Dart. And oh, this, I was building a little science. I was trying to build a science-reliant Robin, except it doesn't really work very well. So I might just, like, I don't know, I'm going to have to redo a little science buggy for the, like, if I want to collect the science around the Space Center at some point, because this design doesn't really, I think a three-wheeler doesn't really work. But the thing is, the reason it's a three-wheeler is this this part here is a little bay that opens up, and hey look, there's all the science parts in there. They look a bit different because of Ven's stock revamp. But yeah, the idea was that my Kerbals could exit out of there and just walk along inside this little tube, except then the game wasn't very happy with that, so they have to exit out the front and then climb in the side. But it's not stable. It's not stable, so I might just have to extend the fuselage out the back a bit more and have it be a more conventional design. Scott Manley. What's Scott Manley? Oh yeah, he's building the Galactica. I mean, you get to a certain point with KSP and it's like, I'm going to start doing crazy stuff now. There's a guy on, I think he mostly streams, but he puts up GIFs on the subreddit quite often, and he's also got a YouTube channel where he does kind of edited highlights and stuff like that called Jetois, and he makes some of the maddest contraptions. He uses infernal robotics a lot, so you get all kinds of like things that fold out and all kinds of crazy things. So yeah, he's done things like a base in a cube, and he kind of lands this thing on Donut or wherever, and it just folds out, and it's a functional, fully featured base that has all the stuff that you need to survive, and you know, all the science bits and whatever. And yeah, he makes helicopters, and his latest thing was some kind of weird machine that it can take off like a helicopter, and then the blades folded into wings or something like that. It was like, I don't know how people come up with this stuff. It was mad. It was brilliant. So yeah, Jetois is worth checking out, even just on YouTube if you want to see his more kind of edited stuff and see some of his crazy inventions. So yeah, you get people like that have just played a lot, and at some point they just want to start making silly things. So anyway, what we'll do is we'll warm up with a rescue mission. We'll rescue a Kerbal Nut, because we don't have a huge roster at the moment. Of course, I killed Jeb, and I've rescued 2 more people since, but we've also got 2 other rescue contracts available. So we'll put the flea through its paces. So we've got John Zor Kerman and Rostries Kerman. What we could do is I could take the Flea Mark II and see how it does at actually rescuing 2 people in a single launch. Now, it's definitely not a particularly like, if I look at my, what was the first ones I sent up? Oh, it was the Twitch Orbiter, that was it, the Mark 1. Like, that's 11k funds. The basic like 1-person thing is just slightly cheaper, and then this one's 23k funds because it's scaled up bigger parts. Oh, I also I don't think I showed you this, the Twitch Orbiter Mark II, which is horrendously expensive because it's a bunch of scaled up parts. But yeah, I went back and completely redid this, and this basically, it can do flybys, but it's not a lander or anything. But I don't think we'll be flying that today. So yeah, completely overhauled that, and it looks a bit odd with a helicopter cockpit on top of a space rocket. Don't think that's really recommended in real life, but yeah, that works. It flies. I've used that to do flyby missions, but we're not doing flyby missions. We're landing. except we're not landing yet because we're going to rescue some people first. So we're going to make sure we don't actually have any people on board. This is just going to be pure fly-by-wire remote control mech jeb doing everything, and then hopefully not killing people. Now there's a little challenge with having TAC life support and rescuing people. You have basically a couple of minutes grace with Kerbal Nauts if they have no anything, like if they've completely run out of oxygen and whatever. I think there's something like 3 to 5 minutes, I can't remember exactly, but basically when you go and rescue have we still got the links turned on? Okay, yeah, here we go. These are the two pods, they're both in quite close orbit. Yeah, when you go and rescue somebody, the game, as far as TAC life support's concerned, they don't have any life support at all. Somehow they've been surviving with basically nothing, because TAC doesn't really interface with the game to give them life support as they're generated through contracts. So you arrive there and you've basically got just a couple of minutes to get them across to a pod that does have life support, so you can't muck around, especially once you get within the range of them. So I don't know if I might have done a test launch of this, I can't remember, but yeah, this is basically a very tiny stubby little orbiter, and oh, not the gear thing. It's got a default amount of life support, so it's like 3 days for 2 Kerbals, and it should be, I think it's fully recoverable with the with the radial mount parachute. So it's very cheap, and because even though it's only 23k funds to launch, which is double the other one, over double the one-man capsule, I'm getting recovery from the stage recovery mod, so I'm getting some of that funds back anyway. So we're going to launch to, I think it's 120 kilometers it does its catching up at, and we're also going to have to do a phase change, because not a phase change, no, that's a completely different thing, an inclination change, because the mech jeb ascent guidance tool, which basically takes off for you automatically, even if you tell it you want to go into a 0 inclination orbit, it doesn't really do it that well, so you still have to adjust once you're actually in orbit. So we're just basically going to launch, and mech jeb's going to do all the hard lifting at this point, because I've unlocked these features in the tech tree. I've done all the manual launches that I care to do at this point. It's good in a way with the career mode and the way they do it, because I have in the past just gone and manually edited the mech jeb config files so that you have all functions available from the start in career mode. But it's good once in a while to reacquaint myself with the whole manual takeoff side of things, because I do like to try it every now and then. It's just doing it over and over again is a bit tedious. So yeah, this is completely just toroidal fuel tanks, and then the upper stage is, I think, like 1 toroidal fuel tank. That might also be a scaled engine, I don't know. Vens does some very nice things with the stock engines, particularly. It's a really nice parts pack. I cannot recommend it enough, but it's one that you really have to start off a new save with, because it will, with the way it alters some of the existing parts in terms of their shape, if you had orbiting spacecraft, it might do very bad things to them. I suppose if you had an early enough career where you didn't have, or just an early enough save where you didn't have lots and lots of stuff in orbit already, it would probably be fine, as in my case where I only had a bunch of satellites and it didn't really break them at all. It just made the solar panels look a bit wonky. There were 1 or 2 designs that I had to slightly fix in the editor, of course, but that really wasn't a particularly big deal. So yeah, because this is so compact, Sleece, it really doesn't need any kind of stabilization in terms of extra fins or anything. Longer rockets do. But even if you never play with any other mod, Tweak Scale is actually a really fun mod. And I don't know why I resisted getting it for so long, because just the ability to muck around and change the size of the existing parts in game, it really adds an awful lot. Right, why aren't we staging? I don't know. But yeah, auto stage was turned on, just for some reason it wasn't. I don't know. I had to manually stage that. But yeah, so we've gone from a stack of like 8 to a stack of, I think, 2. This is a new engine, by the way, that's added by Vens, which is kind of related to the Poodle. I think it's the Poodle. Yeah, it's sort of a more powerful but less efficient version of the LV909. And it's actually got a little built-in fuel tank itself, so it looks rather nice with these parts. But a lot of the Vens parts kind of assume they're going to be stuck on the bottom of normal fuel tanks, so they've got these little fuel lines that lead in, and in this case, of course, there's nothing there. So how are we doing for Delta V? Oh, we've got loads. So yeah, it's a little engine, but it's got more than enough push, because it's basically a capsule and a heat shield and a parachute. In fact, I don't even think I have a heat shield. No, I don't, because we're just coming back from orbit. You don't really need a heat shield just coming back from orbital speeds. It's when you start to come back from moons that things get rather hotter. So yeah, Tweak Scale. Tweak Scale is the mod. Green Raven. It is on the list that's in the link in the title. So yeah, these are just the tiny little toroidal tanks, and they're scaled up to 2.5 meters, and that makes them quite expensive. And this is one of the nice balancing parts of Tweak Scale. It still makes going down the technology tree worthwhile, because if you look at a part, let's say I take a 1.25 meter tank that I've scaled up to 2.5 meters, and I then unlock a 2.5 meter tank, they might have the same volume in terms of how much fuel they can hold, but the part that is a 2.5 meter tank on the tech tree will cost less. So scaling up is not cost efficient, but it's a way to build bigger rockets earlier on if you're willing to pay more money. And especially when it comes to engines, it really does give you a lot more options to work with. It doesn't work with all mods though. It works with all of the stock parts, and it will work with some mods, but there are some parts in here from other mods. I think some of the KW rocketry engines don't work with Tweak Scale. In fact, I don't think any of them do. And there's some other bits and pieces that don't work with Tweak Scale either, which is a little unfortunate, because some of them would be nice to scale up and down, but for the most part it's absolutely fine. So we can click this and see that we've had that first stage recovered for a total of 10,000, so that's fine. MechJeb, if you're wondering why we're pointed sideways, MechJeb's attempting to get us into a 0 degree, 0 inclination orbit. It might actually do it. Doesn't usually, but anyway. The IVA for this model, by the way, it's a little wonky looking. It actually extends out the back of the pod itself, which is a bit peculiar. Yeah, the money situation, like, unless you purposely make it hard for yourself by adjusting the difficulty sliders when you're setting up a game, it's really not hard to make money in KSP. I actually intended, and I think I mentioned this in one of the previous streams, I actually intended to turn it down a bit and also turn on the feature that means I have to pay to unlock stuff on the tech tree. And because I've got the default 100% payout for all contracts, plus I don't have to pay for stuff on the tech tree, money's not been a problem, but that was not intentional. But this is not really a super serious hardcore playthrough or anything. This is just me wanting to try out the Galileo planet pack. So that's possibly the first time it's successfully put me on a proper 0 degree inclination. But I do go and update MechJeb every so often, so it might be that it's been one of those updates that's gotten MechJeb to behave itself. So who should we rescue first? Let's go for Johnzor. And we want the rendezvous autopilot. We've got 675 meters of second delta V, which I think should be enough for both. I'll be doing quick saves along the way because we don't want to get them stranded up there and have to send up a rescue to rescue the rescue. Where am I looking for? Rendezvous something. Oh, I don't think I actually have the rendezvous thing yet. No, I don't have it unlocked yet. So what we do is I can do it kind of. You can still get MechJeb to do it with the maneuver planner. So what we want to do is home and transfer to target. Which, oh yeah, okay, we're going to have, I think, more than enough delta V to do what we need. So just execute next node. So yeah, you can still do rendezvous maneuvers through MechJeb before you have the rendezvous autopilot feature unlocked, and it just means you have to do it in stages through the maneuver planner feature. You could. The stock aerodynamic model foo is kind of like it's not particularly accurate. It's better than it used to be. I think it's one of the previous updates at 1 point something. I can't remember. I think it was one of the 1.0 something. I think it was before they switched to the 64-bit client. They did a major overhaul and it works better now. But for people who want to seriously get into aeroplane building, there's a mod called Ferrum Aerospace. But I don't think that's been updated for the latest version of the game. And it probably won't be updated for 1.2 because 1.3 is about to come out rather shortly. So, yeah. Ferrum Aerospace is good though. And there's a whole bunch of just aerospace related mods for people that just want to tinker around and build planes. That's how I've got the propellers and the things like the helicopter cockpits, because that's all from I can't remember now, but it's on the list. It's something like Aero Plus or something like that. So yeah, you can build planes, and the stock KSP Aero is not completely terrible, but Ferrum Aerospace aims to just be a heck of a lot more realistic. Yeah, I'll be streaming for a little bit yet, Chaser. We're going to do this rescue and then we're going to go to Iota. I'm aiming to make this stream at around 2-ish hours. It might go slightly over that. I don't think I want to go for ages and ages because I mean, I did get some stuff done today. It just wasn't really doing video making. I've got a double battleship game to do, and it's about 30 minutes. So the fact that it's 30 minutes alone, like my ability to sit down and get through that's probably quite limited at the moment. But yeah, I went and bought a new pair of shoes, and I helped my dad take the family dogs to the vet, because one of them's getting on a bit in years and she's starting to have joint problems, which is fairly common for Labradors, unfortunately. When I was growing up, we had a pet Labrador called Ben who, yeah, it was his back legs just going that did for him in the end. And she's not quite that old yet. She's only like 9.5, but it's about that sort of age when Labradors start to get joint problems. So yeah, she's starting to get a bit arthritic-y and needing things for that. And her daughter was there as well, who is quite an energetic little dog. So yes, keeping the pair of them. Like, he didn't fancy trying to wrangle both of them at the same time, so I came along, and then I went into town and bought some shoes, and then we had tea at a very nice little place in Stornoway, and it was a jolly civilized afternoon. So yeah, it's actually been an okay day. It's just I've just felt so kind of blur from not sleeping properly that concentrating to do a video has just been a bit out of the question, unfortunately. Oh hey, Jade of Mar. Well, there's a name I wasn't expecting to see in my chat. Yeah. You'll have to excuse the tiny little 480p quality. There's a reason I don't stream full-time or anything even approximating full-time. Streaming is just a side hobby, but it's good enough that a few dedicated nutters want to come and watch me play various things from time to time. So, yeah. Yeah, Jade of Mar is actually one of the people that works on Galileo's Planet Pack. So there you go, chat. It's a very, very good looking mod. There's actually plans afoot to do, I think it's 8K textures. So you'd need a serious chunk of memory to run that, but it would look pretty bloody good, I would imagine. Yeah, this is the current Galileo, or I think the current Galileo's Planet Pack. But it still looks pretty good. Well, of course I recognise your name. You know, I watch PC Rocket Gaming on a somewhat regular basis. So, yeah, I quite enjoy his stream, and you're there quite often, so it makes sense that I'd remember your name. I do sometimes watch AJ as well, but... no, not AJ, EJSA. Or is it AJSA? I can't remember. Something SA, anyway. Yeah, but I don't know. He can be entertaining to watch, but he's also very... Kerbal Space Program is serious business, and I think I prefer the more slightly laid-back approach of Rocket PC gaming. EJSA, there you go. Yeah, there's it's a fairly small crowd of people that kind of stream KSP on a regular basis, and it's funny because it's a really well acclaimed game, and even though I think lots of people know of Kerbal Space Program, I still get the feeling like it deserves to be more played than it is. But I mean, I think they're still doing well enough to, like, they're still developing it, even though the core of the old team is gone at this point. But for what it was, for an early access game, it has done what it set out to do and more. And even if the era of significant additions to KSP is gone and it's just a bit of bug fixing and localization and whatever that's available in the future, it's still a really good game, and just the modders make it so much better. It's like Minecraft. You kind of cut your teeth on playing the vanilla game, and then you suddenly discover there's this whole world of mods available. Anyway, so we've got our... Because we were so close, it was taking a while to warp forward. We couldn't warp any closer to that. But yeah, we've got our intercept. So what we're going to do now is... we're going to click this fine-tune approach to target button. I'm going to set that to 100 meters. So that'll do a very small correction burn to make sure that we pass close to the pod to collect our stranded Kerbal, and then we will go and do the final bit, which is to match velocities with the pod. Yeah, that's kind of a fair point, Latika Mafia. Like, sometimes some games are more fun to play than they are to watch. I'm that way with Paradox games, to be honest. I don't watch a lot of people on YouTube, or in fact, I don't think I ever really watch Paradox streams for stuff like Stellaris and CK2 and EU4. There's a lot of the people that do it that I'm aware of, but I don't go and watch it because it's not the kind of game I can really watch and enjoy. I have to just go and play it myself. So I've got, like, probably collectively well over 1,000, in fact maybe even like 2,000 hours in all the Paradox titles. In fact, it probably is well over 2,000 hours if you count the older games like EU3 and the original Crusader Kings. But I can't quite watch people play it somehow. So we want to then match velocities with target as our final step, which is really not taking a lot of delta V. And this is the advantage of using the toroidal tanks to create these stubby little craft, and because it is literally just a capsule that's meant to come back, it doesn't take a lot of delta V to shift it around the place. So we've got so little fuel left, but it still represents more than enough delta V. So I think we will have enough delta V in this to go and do both rescue missions. So we've gotten a message about electric charge depleted, oxygen depleted, so that means we're getting close. Yep, there it is. So we've got just a couple of minutes to go and rescue this Kerbal before TAC life support actually kills them. I don't know yet, Jade. I mean, honestly, I've never really been outside the Kerbal system. I've got a Korea playthrough, which has sort of been like put in storage, if you like, for the previous, was it 1.13, I think, and I had TAC life support on there, but I'd literally never gone out to even like Duna before, and I was just in the process of starting to send ion-powered probes to Duna and seeing how all that worked. So I don't know. I might try the same with GPP, because there's so much cool stuff to explore. But even in vanilla KSP, I've never really been out that far. So it might be an interesting challenge. I do have an extra mod alongside TAC life support though, that and I was saying this earlier, one called Soylent, which it's a loop closing mod, which allows you, once you've got those parts, to stick some extra stuff on that fills the gaps for losses. But it also introduces an extra resource that you then need to kind of keep everybody alive. So the next target is Rostris. So once again we're going to change our altitude, and we're going to do basically the exact same procedure, and just get ourselves out to a slightly wider orbit where we can basically get ahead and then intercept and grab our second Kerbal. I did look at SETI Greenhouse, and I can't remember why I decided not to try that, but yeah, there's a couple of interesting mods that go down that route where you can basically build facilities that let you grow biomass, essentially. And some of them it's explicitly that you're growing biomass. In the Soylent mod, it's kind of like magic solar panels, essentially. But the idea is that you have the algae in these solar panels that are converting sunlight to algae, but you need some kind of like feedstock for them, which is the extra resource that it adds. So you do need to carry some extra resources around, but it does actually dramatically extend the life support capabilities of your craft without having to just add so much in the way of like TAC life support containers. Right, so we want to circularize, which is another tiny amount of delta V. I can't remember. There was some reason why I didn't want to try SETI, and I don't know. Oh, I missed you saying that, Cyberwraith. You had a first armor save. Yeah, I've been watching, like, on Steam. There's been a lot of Payday 2 updates recently, and I have been updating the game, but I haven't actually fired it up for a little while. So yeah, I'm aware there's obviously been updates happening in Payday 2, and I do need to go and have a look. But armor safes sounds interesting. That might be something worth looking at. So as we've only got one, let's have a quick check. Oh yeah, we've got ample time to go and rescue this next Kerbal. So home and transfer and execute next node, and that's only 40 minutes away, so it'll maybe be a minute or two because we can't warp that fast because we're still in quite a close orbit, but 40 minutes from a life support point of view is just fine. The Clash of the Elements thing, they didn't really tell us very much about that, Brett. We know it's happening. They've offered us, I'm thinking about how to do it, but they've offered us some small amounts of coins to give away. If we can think of, like, raffles or prizes or contests, well, prizes for contests or anything like that, in the context of streaming and YouTube for World of Warships, but I haven't thought of anything myself. So, yeah, but I think what the thought there is that it's... I mean, I think they've done similar things in the past in tanks, I'm not sure. But yeah, there's the ultimate prize of a Kamikaze R, which I don't actually have. I've got the Kamikaze, but not the R. In fact, no, I don't have the Kamikaze, I've got the other one. Or do I? I can't remember, I've got one of them. It's the old style Minikaze, anyway. And I think as some of the goals are unlocked, you get some of the new alternative rare consumable boost things as well. Right, so that's our transfer set up. And now we want to do fine-tune closest approach, which is going to be a tiny little burn of 0.4 meters a second. If you notice the weird scrolling in and out, by the way, that's me trying to scroll the chat. Oh, Ginge. Oh, that was a terrible pun. That was... No, Ginge. No. Anyway. So there's our tiny little correction burn, and then we match velocities, at which point we can just... well, after we've obviously grabbed our second errant Kerbal-Naut, we can bring the whole shebang home. Now, this is what I meant, by the way, with the IVA for this particular pod actually extends out of the back of the physical pod. So it's a little bit wonky. I'm not quite sure why they've done it this way. I mean, it's obviously using stock textures and assets to create that IVA. And the actual... like, the interior does not match up at all. So I'm thinking it's because it's using stock parts. I mean, that window, for instance, that's actually from the Mark II lander cam. So they've kludged it together from existing bits rather than come up with a completely new IVA. Maybe at some point Vens will add a more logical interior for this particular capsule that doesn't break the laws of time and space. Well, I suppose for now you could just pretend it's using TARDIS technology. Yes. Right. So whereabouts is the capsule? There we go. Oh, I haven't turned on RCS. That's why. The Mark I pods, by the way, they look a lot more now like the Gemini capsules, which is pretty cool. Hey, Lafeel. Yeah, we're still doing Kerbal-Naughty things. So we're just rescuing some Kerbal-Nauts, and then we are going to go to Iota. We're going to land on Iota for the first time. I've done flybys of Iota. We haven't actually landed yet, so we're going to go and land on Iota and fulfill a couple of contracts. And we're going to put the Mark I Brett lander through its paces. And hopefully not kill any more people. I've done alright so far. I've killed one Kerbal-Naut in multiple missions, and I think that's probably not a bad record. So there we go. So yeah, if we take a look around the interior, you can actually look out, but that does not match up with the actual exterior of the pod at all. It's slightly odd looking. So yeah, we can just bring this down at this point. I'm not entirely sure where the... I still haven't got in my head, looking from orbit, where the actual the space center is. I wonder if we can cheat. Okay, we're gonna quick save it and use the landing guidance to bring us down on... Ah, no, see, that, the landing guidance coordinates in MechJeb are set for Kerbal Space Center. It doesn't actually realise that the Space Center's in a different place, so no, we can't cheat and use that. It's somewhere! It's somewhere, yes. Oh, I used to, like, when I was first playing, I absolutely, like, I was terrible at doing EVAs. I used to get so stressed about it. I suppose EVAs I can do now without too much difficulty, but docking is still a thing that is beyond me, alas. I need MechJeb to be able to dock things together. So we're going to burn retrograde, get ourselves back on the ground. We've got a bit of delta V that we can slow ourselves down with as we're in the upper atmosphere. But yeah, no heat shield. So we're relying on the natural heat resistant properties of the pod. And as I've said, coming back from orbit is... Well, you'll find this yourself in the early career. You don't get heat shields in the early career, at least not in stock KSP. You might do in manned before unmanned, the tech tree rejig that I've got in this particular build. But yeah, in stock career mode, you just have to rely on the pods themselves to not burn up, and so for just orbital operations, you don't need a heat shield. You can do, just for making it look nice, but it's not required. So let's bring this back down. What's the difference between a landing and a crash? Well, a landing is a very gentle crash. There are, I mean, there's one mod, I think I tried it out and then, oh, I meant to actually, oh, never mind. I was going to burn off the rest of that fuel and instead I hit spacebar, oops. It's fine. I also accidentally armed the chute. Well, I think that might have been my staging that was at fault there. Yeah, Navy Fish's docking alignment mod, which basically introduces a little panel when you're trying to dock things together. I might actually have it installed on this. I can't remember. But it's one I've definitely looked at, and it's the actual aligning stuff to dock it up, even using something like Navy Fish, I find really difficult. But the vanilla game just does not help you with docking at all. It does such a very bad job at it. So, the music stopped. We're going to start seeing the heating effects at some point soon. We're still... Oh, I can't see how fast we're going because we still have... there we go. We still have a target set, so just over 2,000 meters a second. And we don't have a heat shield. But it's fine. It'll be fine. We might have exploding solar panels because the solar panels have a very poor tolerance for re-entry heating. Why do Kerbals remind me of George Osborne? Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah, George Osborne, can't even say his name. George Osborne could well be a Kerbal, Cyber Wraith. So yeah, these solar panels are already heating up. They probably will explode, which will look a bit dramatic, but ultimately it really doesn't matter. It's like Lafiel. I mean, a lot of these things we just have terms for them but really you can put them in different ways. Like going at an orbital velocity means just going very fast and sideways at the same time, because you're just permanently falling, but you're falling fast enough that you're also going sideways fast enough that you actually just stay up there. Which there's probably a more elegant way of putting that and still preserving the actual meaning of what I meant. But anyway. So yeah, these solar panels really are heating up now. Although we might not even lose them. We're down past 30,000 meters already, and no, okay, that's fine. Apparently this was a gentle enough re-entry that yeah, they're fine. We didn't actually lose anything. I've done a bit of testing with these pods. Oh no, keep that retrograde. And That is a thing that tended to happen as the solar panels exploded, but I guess it just depends on your re-entry profile. So that was it. That was a really gentle re-entry. Maybe it was... I don't know if that was like an especially shallow one, or... I don't know. Normally, even the re-entries from Kerbal Orbit are a little bit more dramatic than that, though not hugely more dramatic, but just more dramatic enough to make things explode. But no, that was fine. Yeah, most components, if they're around 2000K, I don't know if it'll say here, but in the editor, it'll tell you what their heat tolerance is. If it's sort of 2000 to 2200K, generally speaking, they're fine coming back unshielded from Kerbin's atmosphere, through Kerbin's atmosphere, from orbit rather. Flying is throwing yourself at the ground and missing. Well, that's obviously Douglas Adams and Hitchhiker's Guide. Fun fact, the patch of Stellaris I mentioned earlier is actually going to be called the Adams update, because the 1.5? Yeah, 1.5 patch they called Banks, obviously after Ian Banks, whom I just did a video on a book of his on my second YouTube channel, and the next one's going to be called after Douglas Adams. So, yeah, it's almost as if they're all giant nerds, of which I approve. So, that's saying 4400. Oh, why? Oh, yeah. For some reason, the staging wasn't working, so I had to right-click and manually tell it to deploy the chute. Yeah, after the slightly hairy re-entry of last time, did we run out of... No, we still got loads of electric charge. Weird. Yeah, after the slightly hairy re-entry at the end of the last stream, which was completely not intentional, yeah, I think we'll be a bit more cautious this time. This is another thing that Ven's stock part revamp does. This isn't a specific parachute mod. This is Ven's just making the parachutes look a bit different. There are parachute mods out there, though. There's one, in fact, that I did look at, and again I decided not to use it. I can't think why. I might actually go and install it at some point anyway. That basically gives all your Kerbalnauts little parachutes to play with. Okay, that's... We're not going to get any EVA reports from flying here. Yes, they've had a Clark patch. I don't think they've had a Huxley patch, though. I'm trying to think what the... I think the first one, they kind of did it alphabetically. So the first one was Asimov, and then they had... Oh, actually, no, it wouldn't have been alphabetically. I think they had Asimov and Clark, and then Banks. Those have been the code names, if you like, for the major patches. And then the next one's going to be Adams, which is obviously not alphabetical. Right, while we're gently floating down, I'm just going to quickly grab myself some more water. So I'll be right back. Right. Somebody's probably already made those for the that's General not General, that's Admiral what's his face from Star Wars, right, LaFeel? There is like a Star Wars total conversion for Stellaris already. There's also a Star Trek total conversion called New Horizons. I've not tried the Star Wars one, but the New Horizons one I have tried, and it's actually quite good. It's a bit like, it's very work in progress, but there's some good stuff in there. So yeah, that's a mod I've been keeping my eye on for Stellaris. There's a couple of other mods I've tried out, but there's nothing yet of the scale of the Mayu and Taxis mod for EU4, for instance, or the CK2 Plus mod. But something like New Horizons might get to that level of complexity in time. So we're down safely on the ground. We've rescued John, Zor and Rostris. Completed those contracts. Gotten a bit of money even. And now we're going to go to Iota. Although we'll have a quick check and see what new contracts have popped up since. But that was a nice little live test of my my flea system as well. So let's take, that's another rescue mission. I always take the rescue missions for Kerbal Nauts. They get a bit more complicated as time goes on. Like you take more of them and suddenly it's, you have to rescue Kerbal Nauts from around other planets or, you know, orbiting around the sun. But the ones from just around the orbit of Kerbin, or Gale in this case, yeah, I always go for those because it's free Kerbal Nauts. You don't have to buy them. Although, funding-wise, that's not really a problem in my case. So let's have a look at a final look at the Brett before we actually launch it, just to see if we can't like discover any potential problems that there might be. So with 2 crew, we have so much food. We've got almost 90 days worth of life support. Electricity we might actually want. How are we for? I might want to maybe add another battery pack. Would that be one of the small ones there? That's not a lot. I don't want to add a huge amount because it's like in terms of the delta V it works, but batteries aren't particularly. Alright, that adding that battery literally just adds like 2 hours of life support, so that's not a huge amount. Like, it's already got a lot of batteries. You can see all the life support canisters and stuff in there as well. It might be fine as is. The only alternative is to add one of these huge battery packs, but there. How would that work? How would that look? Let me add that there. What does that do? That's not, hopefully not completely messed up my staging. Hang on. Oh, okay, no, yeah, that's fine. Right, yeah, okay, we'll do that. Add one of the big radial battery packs. Doesn't add a lot of extra weight, and what we can do is kind of move that up a little bit there, so we're not really adding a lot of extra. Yeah, I've got so many battery packs bodged into the top there that bodging in an extra battery pack doesn't really matter that much. I might pull that up slightly. There we go. And in terms of delta V, that's only had a tiny impact. It's maybe 50 meters a second of delta V. Now, the one thing I would like is better looking solar panels. I think these are the revamped OX 4Ls from Vens, and they look all right. But when they're stowed, I don't have retractable ones at the moment. So once they're out, and in their folded configuration, they do, like, they're going to cause drag. It's kind of unavoidable. So, crew members. Hey, Polyvas. You named this thing after Brett? I'm not sure if I'd be flattered or offended. Well, that's up to him, I suppose. But if I never ever get cookies again at a future Tank Fest, then I'll know why. Yeah. Yeah, Polyvas. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, probably not. It's not really my kind of a game. This is the kind of game I can watch other people play it. I did actually watch Circon play it a little bit earlier. But honestly, nah, it's not really my sort of thing. Right, we want to take Yeah, we want to take a scientist, so we'll take Bob. Valentina and Bob are both very experienced crew at this point. Well, they're the most experienced crew of the crew I've got, so yeah. And poor Bill hasn't really done much of anything so far. So, just double check the staging, and then I think we're good to go. I have done a test flight of this already, so it doesn't explode immediately on takeoff or anything like that. Okay. Did I... wait. Oh yeah, those Separatrons there, that's fine. So that's all, I'm going to stage them at the same time. I'm being very... I think I might actually have proper couplers at this point. Yeah, I do, the radial decouplers, but when I built this, the only kind of radial decouple part I had was the aerodynamic hard point, which is maybe more meant as an engine mounting under wings, but you can use it as a decoupler. So that's why I've used those there. In fact, that's the major difference between this and the Mark II, the Hildebrand, which that actually has the entire sort of, I don't want to call it the outboard system. It's a more kind of classical eject system, with the entire thing coming off as one piece from the nose, basically, instead of being two separate side-mounted parts. But anyway, we're gonna do this for our first one, and then we'll probably use the other one for future operations. So let's get this on the launch pad and up in the air. But the Icelandic housing market's gone full... okay. How much does a long house cost these days then, LaFeel? Right, stop at stage 3. So the idea... I've used this idea in previous things of KSP. It's just like an all-in-one lander system, and it's not particularly efficient because you're lugging stuff all the way back with you, but also it cuts down on part count, and it cuts down on the size of the rockets as well. But it does mean in this case that it's this rather ungainly side saddle design. I mean, I've used it successfully in the past, and it's fine, it works. It's just it's not the most elegant solution. Anyway, that all looks fine, so let's actually launch this thing. There's parts of the housing market in the UK, in fact just the UK generally is facing a housing stock shortage, which is leading to all kinds of discussion at the moment. But yeah, it's far worse in some parts of the UK than others. This is probably one of the cheapest parts of the UK generally in which to buy and also build a house. Oh, that's what prompted that. So you're getting a house, Brett. Congratulations. I'll try not to kill, you know, these Kerbal Nauts, because that would maybe be a bit inauspicious. But yeah. See, when my mum and her partner lives in Manchester, you could probably like that would, I think that would do for like a city centre flat. I'm not sure about houses. I think it depends where in Manchester for houses, because as with most cities, there's the posh bit and then there's less posh bits, and then there's Moss Side. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like up here. 245k would you could build a pretty nice house for that amount of money. And you could like that would buy you a house very, very easily. Right, we've got a bit of wobble here, but there's a lot of sticky out things on this rocket, so there's some bad aerodynamics going on. If this was using Ferrum Aerospace, this would not be a happy rocket. And even with a stock aerospace, it's a little bit wobbly, but it's fine. I'm just trying to, there we go, aim the camera a bit better so we get more of a view of the top. So there's about a minute 50 seconds left on this stage. This is one where I think I tweak scaled that engine. No, that's just a skipper. Okay, and I've used some. I think these little mounts here. These are, you know, the radial stack adapters. I think that might be advanced construction or whatever it's called. But they're quite handy. You can also just use nose cones to kind of bodge parts on like that, but I decided to use the mounts in this case just because I've never used them before. So yeah, these are scaled up 1.25 meter tanks, which is, I think, it's the equivalent of an orange tank, but an actual orange tank would cost less, basically. So, we're getting a bit of heating on the solar panels. If we lose the solar panels, that's really bad. I think I might have... no, I don't. I don't have any surface-mounted solar panels, so that's our only power generation. I don't even have a fuel cell. I don't think I've ever really used fuel cells, and of course the real-life Apollo missions used fuel cells to generate their power. So that is an option for KSP. You can use fuel cells, but it's not really a thing I've ever gone for, because as it's ticking over and generating electricity, it's using up your fuel supply. So you're having to take along extra fuel just to feed the fuel cell, essentially. So that main stage has kicked us most of the way up, and the next stage we will use for... we've got a bit to do the orbital insertion burn with, but we've got this little stage here, and then once we've used that to insert our way to a fly past of Iota, then we're on to the outboard stage. So it is a 3-stage rocket, it's just the third stage is a little unconventional. So there we go, that's the solar panels out. And another 700 meters per second delta V, so we'll actually only use a little bit of the second stage. I mean, this second stage, I could probably fine-tune it a bit better in terms of how much fuel's in this main stage. But the second stage really is just kind of like a kicker stage, just to kick it into orbit and then just to kick it on its way to wherever it's going. Now, I don't know if MechJed will have successfully put us in a... No, it hasn't put us in a 0 inclination orbit, so we're probably going to use up most of this kicker stage to change our orbital inclination. So that's an LV909. That's what the LV909 looks like now. It's got kind of like a skeletal look to it. So that's us in orbit. That's now... theoretically... that should fall back. That's got enough parachutes on it, but that might be a part that I have to follow around myself, because it'll be grazing the upper atmosphere. And if you're not looking at stuff when it's grazing the upper atmosphere, if it's just kind of doing it in the background, it doesn't... I don't think the game calculates drag, so it will just kind of indefinitely stay in that orbit, even though technically it's a suborbital orbit, or it's grazing the atmosphere with that orbit. So what was I doing? Oh yeah, so get rid of that. This is about 700 meters a second. So maneuver planner. We want to. I'm just like I'm building all of these craft with more delta V than I would in stock KSP because of the placement of the space center and my inability to launch into a 0 degree inclination on my own. The first time, like the the last one we did, the first flight of the Flea Mark II, that was the first time that MechJeb successfully done that on Galileo Planet Pack. Well, Galileo's Planet Pack, I should say. I always forget that. I always call it the Galileo Planet Pack, but it's not. It's Galileo's Planet Pack. What was the change inclination? So that's going to cost us 315 meters a second delta V. So we'll still have some delta V in this stage for actually starting us on our way to Iota. If we take a little view inside, we can see Valentina, and because we've got raster prop monitor, I can never remember which ones are which. Oh, there we go. Use the vessel viewer. We've got all this information on the stock screens, which is I really like raster prop monitor as a thing. So we can get some orbital information. We can get some crew information. What else is available? Resources. Well, we'll leave it on the resource screen so we can see. Pardon me. So we can see at a glance what's available. If I look at there we go. So we've also got some similar screens inside the lander can. And the interior of the lander can looks a bit different, actually. I think that's one of the things that's changed with Vens. So I'm sure that normally isn't there, the flag, but anyway. So we'll be. Oh, it's a very. That's why it wasn't time accelerating, because it was a very, very short time to the actual burn. So the idea with this kicker stage is, I mean, I've got a pair of Separatrons on this, so in theory that should kick it back to then crash back to Gale. I don't think I put parachutes on that stage though, because it's just a tiny little fuel tank and an LV909. Why do I have a Scottish flag? I mean, why? This is the literal name of the save file is the Scottish Space Program. In the previous version stock career, I actually had the flag of Caledonian McBrain as my flag, but I felt that was maybe a little too like not a lot of people would get what that was. So anyway, so that's us now on a 0-degree inclination, and we can make our way to Iota. So maneuver planet. Oh, I just closed the maneuver planet, didn't I? Don't know why I did that. Home and transfer to target. Create node, so that's 900 meters a second delta V, and just under half of that is going to come from this intermediary stage, so that's fine. I'll also tweak the God, this is the downside of it. Let's turn off, where are we? Let's turn off the relays, because that was looking a bit busy. So there we go, that's a bit cleaner looking now. So that should do the trick. Oh yes, okay, that's fine. I'll just manually execute the staging. I could use the MechJeb utility panel to do it, but you know what? I'm not quite that lazy, at least not today. So why is there a thing sticking through the? Oh, not sure why that's sticking through the sides of the. I mean, it doesn't really matter that it's clipping through like that, but it might do on re-entry. I'm not sure. Oh, I think I put those up there myself, Jade of Mar. If I turn that back on, yeah, I'm like I was trying to put up a satellite network, and I'm terrible at trying to get things into an equidistant equatorial orbit. So I just basically completely bodged it. I've got 3 satellites in that orbit, and then 3 communication satellites in that orbit, and then one of them's a ScanSat. In fact, I think 2 of them might be ScanSats, because I mucked up the first one somehow. I can't remember, so I just launched another one. So yeah, in theory there is enough coverage between this complete mess of communication satellites to provide continuous communication coverage. I tried to make a mashup word there. Communious, yes, that's definitely a word. Right, I don't know why we're not Should be auto-warping. Oh, there we go. Yeah, for some reason MechJeb wasn't auto-warping. Yeah, it'd be nice if there were some tools for doing that. I mean, I've read about it, and the only way to get them in exact, precise orbits where they will never drift is literally to go in and edit the save file for those particular craft to put them in the exact orbit. You can get them into a near exact orbit if you do things like have really throttled rockets, so you can have incredibly minute control of the amount of thrust on your satellites. So it's possible to get it to a near perfect orbit if you've calculated where to put them exactly and calculated the distances to release them at. But honestly, the whole thing is just like far too much effort, so I'd much rather just bodge it completely. And you know, it works. It more or less works. It's fine. As long as it does what it needs to do, it doesn't have to look elegant. Elegant's never been my thing in KSP. Well, I mean, look at this rocket design. This is far from elegant. Very far from elegant. So here we go. This is our burn out to Iota. And I'm going to have to keep an eye on the time left in the Delta V panel, actually. What engines did I use here? Oh, that was right. Scaled down poodles, because poodles are really efficient. And again, once again, tweak scale proving to be a very, very useful mod, because you can take the most efficient engines and scale them up or down, which is great for applications of like different sized craft. Because the poodle's actually quite a big engine. Whoa, hello. Why are we still watching that? Okay, I don't quite know what's happened there. What? I don't... Okay, no, okay, that went a bit... For some reason, we stayed looking at the rear part of the craft rather than... I don't understand that, but okay, anyway. So that's... We've gotten the Delta V from that, but for some reason, I don't understand what happened there. Oh, just cheat and use MechJeb. Create node. Oh, that's actually not enough. We might need to do another go around with the orbit, actually, because the poodles, the scaled down poodles, give very little thrust. Yeah, that was a bit odd. That was very odd. Yeah, let's do a go around. We've got so much life support. We've got like 89 days of life support, basically. Like, the only danger of me killing the Kerbals through life support is not paying attention to the electric capacity. Because we've got about a day's worth of pure battery power on this thing. But lack of battery power will kill your Kerbals pretty quickly, because basically they'll freeze to death. So, we'll create the node, and although it was a bit of a mishap, but it doesn't really matter. We still got the Delta V out for that stage. It's just for some reason the game decided we were going to continue looking at the intermediary stage rather than actually go to the stage that had all the Kerbal noughts on it and the MechJeb. So. Yeah, it was a little bit of unexpected behaviour there, but it's fine. We still got the kick, and it's just it's having to do an additional orbit around Gale before we actually get to where we want to go. Yeah, we got those chaser. Nobody died. We managed to pick them up with a single craft, which was fine. So yeah, what will happen is basically this is it. This is the craft that will land, take off, come back to Gale, and once we get to the point of re-entry, we then jettison these bits, and we just become an unpowered re-entry capsule. And at that point, we're just relying on the heat shield and the reaction wheels to keep us oriented in a way that won't kill everybody. So I've done a re-entry test with this. Theoretically, it does work. But you never know, as with that rather messy little staging there, you never know when things are going to go wrong. So the good thing about with KSP being so scaled down is that even with tweak scale, scaled down Poodle engines, which are like it's less than 8 kilonewtons of thrust between the pair of them. So we have about 15.5, 15.6 kilonewtons, which is not a lot, but it's very efficient, and it's also sufficient for landing on both Iota and CT. And of course, by the time we've actually burned to get out to Iota, it's going to be a lighter craft anyway. We'll have a more higher. I'm doing well. This is why I'm not trying to record videos. You can see how much I'm struggling with just, you know, the normal random ramblings. When I'm doing a video recording and I actually have a kind of structure to what I want to say and an order in which I want to say it, it's a bit hopeless when my brain's just not cooperating. So yeah, anyway, so by the time we get out there, we'll have burned stuff, and it'll be a lighter craft, and we'll actually have a better TWR for the moons themselves. You tried to create the Ares mission from The Martian. Yeah, there's people. I mean, it's great, the level of enthusiasm amongst. I suspect there's a strong correlation between people that are really enthusiastic about space flight and people that go and buy Kerbal Space Program. Even you can probably do a Venn diagram with people that play games, people that like space stuff, and then in the middle you've got KSP. Yeah, I've seen some really cool recreations of various missions, both real and fictional and planned. There's some cool stuff out there. There's another guy I watch on YouTube, actually. I mean, everybody knows Scott Manley, but there's a whole host of much smaller channels, and some of them are doing really cool stuff. So there's a guy called Matt Lown, who for instance, does a lot of cool all-in-one missions. There's Cupcake Landers, who does really, like, basically KSP music videos. And they're really nicely done. I don't think they've done anything in a little while, but just every so often one will pop up, and it's just like 2 or 3 minutes, and I guarantee for that 2 or 3 minutes, hours and hours of work has gone into it. But yeah, those are always really nice. Jatois I've already mentioned. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. There's probably at least one more on my my YouTube subscription list, and of course there's a bunch of dedicated streamers as well. So I already mentioned EJSA even, and Rocket PC Gaming, the two main ones I've watched. But I dip into smaller streams from time to time as well. You didn't add enough space tape. That's never a good thing. You always need more space tape. It's one of the really nice additions of recent KSP is the auto strut feature. As long as you use it correctly, it can be a like invisible space tape. What's not to like? So yeah, this burn's taking a while because these are not powerful engines when they're scaled down like this. But they don't need to be powerful. They just need to be efficient. So we're getting there. We'll just have a little check. Occasionally MechJeb, I think with its calculation of nodes, it does slightly wonky things. You can't entirely 100% rely on MechJeb. You still have to apply a bit of brain power when using MechJeb, because sometimes it'll overshoot or undershoot, or it won't quite calculate correctly. And if you're using things like the landing guidance, you really have to make sure you've picked a good spot to land, because MechJeb doesn't know. If you just hit land somewhere, you could land on the side of a mountain, and you can guess how that's going to go. Yeah, there's various mods. Yeah, Kerbal Joint Reinforcement's another one, I think. So we're almost done with this burn. We've burned. Let's see if I can do it in my head, which I probably can't, and I'm slightly sleep deprived. It wasn't even that bad last night. It was the fact I woke up and then went back to sleep, and that always does a number on me the next day. When I wake up dead early and then fall back to sleep. But yeah, it's just been, I don't know, like the last week or so, my sleep has not been great. It just happens sometimes. Especially now we're getting to the time of year where it's getting lighter earlier and earlier. And even though I've got some quite thick curtains in my bedroom, which are specifically meant to try and block out as much light as possible, because, you know, I am a vampire, yeah, it still sometimes gets bright enough that coming through around the edges wakes me up early. Because, I mean, we don't quite live at the latitudes... What are the longitudes? No, the latitudes that Lafille lives at, but at the height of summer, during the summer solstice, I mean, it's getting dark at like 11:30 PM, and then getting light again at like 3:30 in the morning. So we're still, you know, we're fairly far north. We're far enough north that it gets fairly dark in the winter and fairly light in the summer. So we're on our way. Just keeping an eye on all the various life support related things. Now, because I'm using TAC fuel balancer alongside TAC life support, I think I have far less capacity for waste, but we can just dump the waste into space. And I think I talked about this last time. So if I bring up... Well, first off, let's set our node. 135 kilometers, that's fine. So we'll just circularize. Okay, 185 meters a second, that's fine. But yeah, we'll do that now, because that's one of the things. Like if the capsule runs out of waste capacity, that's another thing that can kill your Kerbals. So you have to be careful about that. Right, where's... oh, there we go. TAC fuel balancer. Because the waste products are counted, as far as the game's concerned, they're just counted as like onboard resources. You can just throw them out the window, because that's one of the things you can do with TAC. So I wonder if I can actually... No, there's no global control for that, unfortunately. So I have to do each one individually. I could just leave them on dump, which would be a bit... I don't know. Right, let's not dump all the water out. That would be bad. So that's waste, water, and carbon dioxide's the third one. So we're just throwing this stuff out the window, basically. Just rolling down the window, chucking out all the stuff. Don't know why it keeps bringing up that thing in the background. Anyway, so turn that off, and we can execute our next node. So 2,500 meters a second delta V. So we've got enough for one landing. That's the disadvantage of this design of doing an integrated lander / return vehicle. I tend to use them early career, but later career, once you get infrastructure set up, once you get stations and stuff, or once you get the refueling technologies, you know, like the miners and the converters, yeah, it's better then to have a separate dedicated lander that you can make multiple use of, or even if you're just doing a mission that you launch that has a lander that can make multiple landings. It is possible once you get the larger parts. So how's the chat doing? Talking about... Oh, Sleece has mice. Okay. You literally don't get any darkness in the summer. I can believe that, Lafille. I mean, you're with 58 degrees north. I don't know offhand what Iceland is, but like over 60 degrees north, at a guess. So yeah, I can easily believe that you're far enough north that there's just like continuous daylight. at the height of summer. Yeah, the ability to mine resources and refuel. I mean, that's one of the things I was doing with my previous career mode. And if you go back, I mean, some of you will have been here for that, but those VODs are also on YouTube. And basically, you know, mining stations and extractor landers that bring fuel up to be processed on the station, and then you can ship the fuel around. And it's great that you can build up that infrastructure, but after a while, the fact that you have to continuously do all these same routine flights over and over again, that's the thing that'd be really nice if there was some way to set that up in the game and to say, right, I've done this particular routine mission a couple of times now. It would be really nice if it could have the game do that in the background somehow for a certain amount of cost. I don't know, maybe there's a mod somewhere that does that, but yeah, I'm nowhere near that stage with the Galileo's Planet Pack playthroughs. We're still at the early stages of exploration. So this is Iota, which looks rather different from the moon. It's rather more scarred. It's not like, it's interesting. The surface looks much more like it's the result of like tectonic, or maybe not tectonic activity, but activity from like having smashed into another body or something at some point. Because it's very scarred looking. It's not cratered so much. Like the moon in stock KSP is very obviously based on our own moon, so lots and lots of craters, but otherwise a relatively undisturbed surface. Whereas this is more like some of the Jovian moons with a much more kind of ridged, bumpy surface. So finding somewhere quite nice to set down is yeah. You're preparing something for Rocket PC. Oh, interesting. Yeah, Rocket PC Gaming, the guy I mentioned previously, he's doing basically 10 times scale Galileo Planet Pack. I did it again, Galileo's Planet Pack. So stock KSP and just ordinary GPP are basically 1/10 the size of our actual solar system, more or less. So there are various mods out there that let you play a real scale actual solar system. You can also have a 10 times scale stock solar system. And then what Rocket PC Gaming is doing is trying out a 10 times scale GPP solar system. So he's basically pioneering it a bit, because it's something that there are probably other people out there that may be trying it themselves, but having watched the streams with him, like, he was having to figure things out and figure out why things weren't happening, and one of the things was the low orbit requirements for the moon wasn't scaling very well for ×10, so he was going to have to go and edit a config for that, because otherwise he would have to fly very, very close to the surface for it to count as being close to the surface in terms of science. So here we are, anyway, in our nice stable orbit. So now we have to that's enough nattering. Let's actually pick somewhere. So what we can do is, you might have noticed these landing legs, so this is how we're going to land this bad boy. Yeah, I think because EJSA doesn't does he play with mods? I think he uses things like Kerbal Engineer, but yeah, Rocket PC's a good person to watch for a very modded build, at least for streamers. Of course, Scott Manley's doing his Galileo's Planet Pack playthrough as well, but he's not been, like, compared to some of the previous series he's done, he's not putting out a huge number of them, or putting them out very often, so he might just be very, very busy in his real life, because of course Scott Manley works for Apple and does all kinds of interesting engineering, software-y things. So unlike the rest of us scrubs, he actually has a real job. I'll say the rest of us, I mean, you know, the likes of me and Circon and the other people that do streaming for a living. Well, not streaming, but, you know, internet video stuff for a living. Let's put it that way. Right, should we... I mean, these are all different biomes. I think both the moons have got their own full biome maps. I'm not sure about the other bodies yet. I mean, obviously Gale does. Jade would probably know better. Oh, there we go. There's the answer. EJSA does not use any mods at all. So there we go. Yeah, I was thinking I've never... Like, you might have used some visual ones or something, but no, maybe not. Let's go for a Highlands landing. That looks like it might be an okay site. We're going to quick save it just to be sure. Right, so land at target. We'll see how we get on with MechJeb trying to land us. Now it's more or less equatorial, so we're not burning too much doing plane corrections. Well, there is one odd thing I noticed with the mod that fades sound out once you actually get into space. When you're in this view, you can still hear the sound, and when you scroll all the way into the rockets themselves, you can hear the sound. So I think that's just, I don't know, that might be a limitation of KSP itself. But in the main, this mod works fairly well. So, no sound in space, just like real life. But of course, you still get the sound when you're in the IVA view. Oh, for some reason though, the vessel viewer... Oh, there we go. Yeah, the vessel viewer hadn't caught up with the staging. So, that's now on a landing trajectory. So we'll get to see the surface creeping up ever closer. But look at that. That is some really, like, you can tell there's a lot of effort has gone into the design of even just the nearby moons. But once you get further out, and I've seen pictures, I haven't been to them, but once you get further out to the other planets, yeah, it's quite impressive. There is genuinely a lot of work that's gone into this. So it's one of the reasons why a lot of people have been jumping on and playing with it, because it's in some ways it's just like a solar system replacement mod is not a new thing in KSP. There have been various different ones for ages, but I think it's just the sheer amount of effort that's gone into this one that really does show through, that's made it quite a popular one. So yeah, well, it's 135 kilometers above the surface. I mean, it's just the capture orbit that we went into, Chaser. But I mean, it's an airless body. It honestly doesn't matter. Maybe it's more efficient to deorbit from a smaller orbit. Maybe I could have adjusted it better, but I suspect I have more than enough delta V. We've still got over 2,000 meters a second delta V on this thing. So, yeah, right, I don't know why we're not... oh, there we go, we don't have the auto warp button. Oh, no, wait, it's doing this thing. Okay, yeah, it's jumping up to 5 times warp and then going down to 1 times warp. Because, for some reason, the landing auto warp thing doesn't work all that well. So what we might do... because otherwise we're going to be waiting an awfully long time. So this is a ×3 auto warp apparently. Well, not auto warp, but we are warping. Doesn't look like we're going very fast. I guess this is another disadvantage of deorbiting from a rather higher plane, is that it's going to take a little bit a little bit longer rather to get down to where we need to be. Well, there we go. We've got Jade of Mar in the chat, who's extolling the virtues of the planet pack. Also, Enceladus. Yeah, Enceladus is cool. There's lots of the moons of both Jupiter and Saturn that are really interesting. That's one of the things I would love in KSP, and I think... right, I did auto-save it, so I'm actually just going to scroll out a bit. I mean, there's whole minutes and minutes yet before we get to where we need to be. But the two... I think it's 2 gas giants. So yeah, there's is it Nero? I think. Oh no, Leto's a rocky body. I think Nero's the gas giant of the system. I can't remember. I can't remember what Hox is. Hox might also be a gas giant. But yeah, I think they've got a decent number of moons. But I would just love so much to have, even if it was a solar system replacer where you start on a moon of a gas giant. I would love to have a replacer where there was just lots and lots of moons, because in real life we're talking dozens and dozens of moons between those two gas giants, and I think that would be brilliant to just be able to hop between all these moons. Although, having said that, a lot of them are just boring little lumps of rock. There are some very interesting moons of the two inner gas giants. Like the two outermost, they don't actually have. There's a couple of moons between them. Between Uranus and wow, the other ones escaped me. I can picture them, but I can only remember the name of Uranus for some reason. Wow, I must be feeling a bit zonked out today. But yeah, Jupiter and Saturn have just so many moons between them. I'd love just to be able to do that in KSP, to just go and visit just all the bigger moons. Even if it was only like, say, 15 moons apiece, that'd still be quite a lot of moons. Oh, there's also, apparently there's 3. Gauss is also a gas giant. Okay, there we go. Tardigrades. Tardigrades are cool cyber wraith. Although one of the things about tardigrades that is maybe, I can't think of the right way to put it, but that's maybe less commonly appreciated is like, a lot of people know that they're very, very survivable, but the thing is they have to shut down to that survival state. They don't kind of like metabolize. They don't live exactly. They're still alive, but they're not performing all their kind of normal, that's their kind of hibernation mode, if you like. Their survival mode, where they shut down all the functions, and in that mode they can survive a hell of a lot. But that's that's not the state in which they kind of live and reproduce and do all the normal living things that life likes to do. So I think people just assume that they're incredibly tough in whatever state they're in, but no, they have to specifically shut themselves down first. So I'm saying they're the Scottish Labour Party. I mean, honestly, I think if you maybe choose between the Scottish Labour Party and the National Labour Party, I'd probably take the Scottish bunch, but even so, yeah. But the Scottish Parliament parties have always had that problem of, like, they're always overshadowed by the national parties. And the SNP is the only one that really doesn't have that, because of the SNP MPs, like, the whole thing really, like, their focus is now the Scottish Parliament, and it's almost like the Westminster party is kind of the secondary part of the SNP, as it were. Whereas for the other Scottish parties, it's kind of the other way around. Where it's the National Party that has primacy, as it were. Anyway. So this is taking a little while. Even at Time Warp, this is taking a little while. But we can zoom all the way back in now. We're getting close enough, I think. Oh no, we've still got like 40 kilometers to go before the high-res textures kick in. But the thought is that if I rejig, see if MechJeb wants to do a correction at this point. Now, this is one of the disadvantages of live streams is when you get the slower parts like this. Yeah, there's a lot of filling time with waffle. But I've had practice. I'm good at waffle at this point. Alright, so let's warp ahead. Another 5 minutes. See, it's interesting you bring that up, because there's almost certainly when I don't think she's done it yet, but Nicola Sturgeon, she basically said she's going to write and ask for another referendum, formally, of the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister Theresa May is almost certainly going to turn that down. So it's entirely a political move. But if and when another referendum happens, I honestly don't know which way I'm going to vote. Because last time, a lot of my reason for voting against was... Well, there were multiple reasons, and I had some personal reasons as well. Because, you know, my family is essentially from all over the UK. But, of course, the landscape after the Brexit vote has just changed so much that... Like, even though all the previous questions over things like currency and economy and defence, those all really, like, they haven't gone away. Those are going nowhere. And a lot of the people that last time were saying, well, we've got the oil to fall back on. Yeah, that's even less certain now than before. We're definitely past... Whoa! Whoa, whoa, whoa. We're definitely past peak North Sea oil production. I don't know why MechJeb suddenly accelerated massively there. That was a bit... Or not MechJeb, but the time warp suddenly accelerated massively. Yeah, even though none of those questions have gone away, and there's still a definite uncertainty as to how well an independent Scotland could economically fend for itself, I think there's just such a... I think we feel more maybe European up here than maybe a lot of people in other parts of the UK does. Wales was the bizarre one though, because Wales relies a lot on EU money for a lot of its rural infrastructure projects. So for Wales to have rejected the EU so much, right? We're not actually... We need to come down on a flatter bit. So we'll see if MechJeb can get us to a flatter bit, because I'm not liking our... It's not quite getting us to the original target coordinates, and I don't know why. So this is putting us off the equator a little bit, but it's fine. So, yeah, I don't know why Wales did that, but Scotland might be a bit better off. But Scotland's still been a huge beneficiary of EU money. There's a lot of like roads, community centres, stuff like that on the islands that have been built as a result of EU communities funding. And I think maybe there's more an appreciation in Scotland of what the EU has done and can do. But also there's a lot of British politics involved. The fact that the Tory party has so little sway in Scotland, generally speaking. I don't know if Scotland is just generally more kind of left-leaning than the rest of the UK. Which might be true, I don't know. But there is definitely a north-south political split, which is more pronounced since Brexit. So we're coming down in the Highlands, and you can actually, like, now the higher res textures have kicked in, it does look pretty good, and you can see, yeah, this is it's a really interesting surface. There's a couple of craters that you can see, but it looks like a world that's like smashed into another world at some point, maybe. Because if this was near a larger body than Gale, you could maybe theorize that there was tectonic activity going on. We're still going rather fast. We're still going at over 100 meters a second. We might need to do a quick load. Yeah. So this is Iota. This is a landing that's all going horribly wrong. Yeah, I mean, this could be going better. Now, I'd almost, like, if they somehow survived this, we're still going at 70 meters a second, I'd almost be tempted to say, let's send up a rescue. But the thing is, the solar panels are gone, they will die. There's no way to get a rescue there in time, because there's only about a day's worth of electricity stored on this thing. Wow, that is seriously spinning. So there's no way for me to get a rescue there in time to save them, so we are going to have to save Scubbit, basically. Hey, TJ Cat, aka Budget Billy. Yeah, no, I guess because we time warped, and oh, there's a big thing going boom there. This is really this is a kind of a trippy effect, and dead. Oh no, Bob survived. I just want to see. We killed Valentina, kind of. You know, we haven't really. It's a simulation, you guys. It's a simulation. Bob must be getting seriously seasick even. But it's because there's so little thrust in those engines, and because I time warped, I guess. Which means I'm going to have to seriously fill time. Or else just cut the time warp a lot sooner than I did. Oh yeah, the G-forces should have killed them, but we do actually have the G-force meter enabled. But for some reason, when they're spinning around like this, the game doesn't... it's more acceleration and deceleration. I don't think the game really knows what to do with this kind of centrifugal force. So yeah, you're right. They should just be outright dead, but no. Dare I see what the view is in from inside? Oh god, that's trippy. So we're just occasionally bumping against the surface, and I don't know why it's not destroying the pod outright. It's destroying bits that are bolted to the side of the pod. But we're about to smack into the side of a thing, so this might be it for Bob. Yep, there we go. So, F9. Did I quick save in orbit, or are we still in the process of... I think the last quick save might have actually been breaking into... Well, we're about to find out. Right, we're in orbit. Right, what we're going to do this time is we're going to warp our selves... move planet. We're going to put ourselves into a much closer orbit, which we can warp into, and then we're going to then set down from a much closer orbit. So if I set it to say, oh, I don't know, 30 kilometers, and we're going to not use a lot of delta V doing this. I think maybe it was because we came down so high, and then I got impatient and time warped things. We'll be able to warp a bit faster, and then we'll have a much shorter landing process. So yeah, that's a bit. That was just, you know, that was a simulation. That didn't actually happen. Yeah. Oh gosh, yes, we have just jumped up in viewers, haven't we? I guess, well, if Max just finished streaming, yeah, that would make sense. You just found a your mom joke inside of a farts bag. Nice. Right, so what we want to do is then circularize at the periapsis. So this is all costing us about 60 meters, I think 70 meters maybe at most delta V, so meters a second delta V. So the impact is absolutely minimal. We have more than enough delta V to do all of this. I have no idea. Well, half the chat, I'm guessing you're talking about what was happening in Max's stream. Cheats and cards and... Isn't Max doing The Witcher or something at the moment? Yeah, there's a card game in that, isn't there? Right, why... Oh. Execute next node. Why aren't we all auto-warping? There we go. The auto-warp function in MechJeb's a little finicky sometimes. Or is he doing some other card game? Because there's multiple, you know, things that could refer to. So take two. It's fine. It's fine. This mod here, by the way, this is just such a simple little thing that I really wish was in the stock game. But surface-mounted lights, which just, it's nice to be able to place your own light sources like that. And it just makes such a... it's purely cosmetic, but it makes such a nice difference. Oh, Cards Against Humanity. Oh. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, it is a Friday, I suppose. It would have been... Yeah, I expect there was alcohol involved. I don't quite get that game, but I guess it's the kind of game that you would just need to play with friends that are, you know, not easily offended. Right, so, once again, we'll quick save and... pick target on map. We'll go for... Okay, this is the skids, apparently. Well, that looks like a nice flat plateau, so we'll tell MechJeb that we want to land there. And hopefully it won't be like a 15-20 minute touchdown. Because that's what it would have been in real time. That's why I was auto-warping. I think that's what's called what caused the problem, is that we just hadn't enough time to... brake using these tiny little engines. So yeah, but even though they are tiny little engines, we still have a thruster weight of over 2.5 in this gravity well. So scaled down poodles are still more than sufficient. And of course on CT, which is I think smaller. I think CT is the same size as Minmus. Jade of Mar will know. They'll correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, that will be even more sufficient. So you don't need powerful engines for landers. You can get by with just a little. I don't actually have a current Stornoway Gazette to hand, Brett. I do have a... Every so often I buy a Private Eye. Every so often I buy one and I think, oh, I'll get a subscription, and then I actually read it and it's almost a bit too depressing. I'm not so much a fan of the satirical stuff, but the actual investigative journalistic parts, yeah. It's just every so often I find myself in a brave enough mood to go and buy Private Eye. But one day I might even get as far as getting an annual subscription to it. Oh, SETI's... Okay, SETI's kind of moon size as well. Oh, that's fine. Well, if I can land on Iota with this design, then I can land on SETI with this design. Or is it CT? I don't actually know. Because I think I've heard it pronounced CT, but then I think Star Trek and I want to say SETI Alpha 5. And watch out for crashed freighters and... mind worms that go in through the ear. Yes, you have to watch out for those when you're landing on CT. Oh, also, hey Katrina. I should have noticed you were there in the chat as well. Once I've done this, once we've landed and gone back, and yeah, this is we're over the 2-hour mark already, so we might be getting towards the 3-hour mark at that point. But yeah, I will wrap up the stream then, I think. I will certainly be tired enough to just want to go to bed. It's actually been a day, and oh god, I feel like such an old man when I say this, but it's actually been a day where I had a nap in the late afternoon. I was feeling that washed out earlier. But I literally had to go and have a nap like an old man. An old man of 31. Well, that's how you say it, isn't it, Katrina? Well, anyway, yeah, that's a name I've run across more than once while I've been up here. That's fairly Scottish name. There's actually some interesting names that are unique to the island. There seems to be, particularly for boys' names, or well, for male names, there's this weird kind of thing that I've not seen elsewhere, where you have literally a double-barreled Christian name, like your first name. So you might have somebody that's Ian Angus, and it's not like a first name and a middle name. It's literally two first names, and sometimes actually hyphenated first names. So yeah, Callum Ian or Ian Angus or other combinations. And it seems to be particularly boys' names. I've never met, but it just doesn't seem to be a thing for women's names at all. It just seems to be men's names. So yeah, that's one of the little local peculiarities of the Western Isles, is double-barreled forenames. I mean, I'm generally, like, I don't tend to be tired enough usually to have to sleep during the day, and I try to avoid it because it then maybe messes up my sleep in the evening, but it was just a bit unavoidable today. But it was after I'd been out and bought shoes and done exciting things like that. I finally bought a new pair of shoes, because the actual soles are starting to come away from my main pair of shoes that I basically wear all the time. But it's not surprising, because I've had them for about 13 years. And they are basically the best pair of shoes I've ever owned, just in terms of how durable they've been. The leather's fine. I'm actually going to see if I can get them repaired and get new soles put on them. But it's not like I've got a lot of other pairs of shoes. I've gone through other multiple pairs of shoes in the time I've had this particular pair of shoes. Oh, this is all out of my hands, Malwo. I'm not actually controlling this. And we're coming down now far more gently than we were before. So yeah, this is a nice flat plateau area. We shouldn't have any problems. One thing I generally don't do that I might maybe have a go at in this career mode is maybe do more things with rovers. Specifically manned rovers. Unmanned rovers wouldn't be too difficult to... I don't know, I prefer manned exploration and getting the full value out of science. There's no real reason to do unmanned rovers other than you really want to. Of course, in real life, the point of setting up manned rovers is to... Oh, we haven't actually extended our antenna. I'm just glancing and seeing our signal strength is awfully low. That's because I haven't put the antenna out. Yeah, it's a hell of a lot cheaper and easier to send out an unmanned rover to somewhere like Mars than a manned mission. But in KSP, there's like the only limitation is yourself, is whether you want to do it or not. Yes, I'm aware that every time I say career mode, it sounds like I'm saying Korea. Right, so we bring up the science menu. We're going to do a nice gentle touchdown. 1800 meters a second delta V. We'll probably have enough delta V that we can like decelerate back into a gale orbit and then have a nice gentle touchdown from there. We don't necessarily have to there we go. We don't necessarily have to have an exciting touchdown. So here we are on the surface of Iota for the very first time on this nice little plateau. You can see the change from the high res textures to the lower res textures, but yeah, that's look at this. There's lots of like canyons, valleys. It's very broken terrain. It's very rumpled. Not a lot of cratering. You can see some cratering, but I don't know. Maybe it's quite a young surface if it doesn't have a lot of cratering. Maybe whatever event produced this really rumpled looking surface was relatively recent. Who knows? But anyway, so yes, but we're down. And so what we're going to do is we're basically going to have Bob do his scientist things. But we'll get them both out so they can both have a little spacewalk. So, hooray, we didn't kill anybody, you know, this time. Shh, we don't talk about the first time. So yeah, let's. I've actually put a science container so I can just grab all the science at once. And the reason why we've got a 2-man crew is so that we can reset things. So apparently we can get a surface sample when we're up on a ladder. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but anyway. Just every time we jump up in the air, it's changing the science counter. So if you're wondering why the little bloopy bloop noise is coming up, that's why. So Bob's having a great time. Well, I've actually turned his lights off. We don't need that. So let's plant the flag, and we'll get Valentina out to have a little walk around as well, so she can get a little ribbon. Oh, I've actually. Can we? Wait, can we do it so that it's not in shadow? That might be quite nice. There we go. I declare this moon a province of Scotland. Oh, it's still kind of in shadow, but never mind. Right, so. I'm just advertising on the moon. I don't know how well this is showing up at 480p, but twitch.tv/PointyHairedJedi. So if anybody comes and sees this flag in the future, they'll know to come and watch me on Twitch. Any other Kerbal Lords? So, Valentina wants to come out and have a little look around as well. I'm pretty sure Ven's made the ladders longer, because these are just the stock ladders. So, actually, let's pose them both next to the... Unfortunately, I think as the sun is more or less overhead... I can't remember what the sun's called in GPP, but yeah. Yeah, you can see the line of the shadow, so we're not really getting a good shot of the flag, unfortunately. Can I... In camera, there we go. It's not really with the rocket in view, but... is it F1? I think it's F1 for screenshots. Yeah. Sounds right. It's very peculiar. Right, let's aim the camera back at Valentina, get it back in the cockpit. And then we've actually got to collect the surface science while we're here as well. Oh, hey, Rocket PC Gaming. Wow, I was absolutely not expecting you to... Yeah, Jade of Mar and Rocket PC Gaming. I was pimping out your channel before. So, yeah, absolutely go and check out... What was going on here? Absolutely go and check out Rocket PC Gaming. That's not how you're supposed to get back in the capsule, Valentina. So yeah, go and follow his channel if you like KSP, if you like watching KSP. And because he's doing the 10 times scale Galileo planet pack, it's something that nobody else is really doing either. So it's quite interesting stuff. Right, that's the flag. Right, actually what we can do is we can just run down all the science, and we can actually have Bob reset while he's outside the capsule still. Seismic scan, material study, and Bob's got the surface sample and the EVA report, so we just get the science experiment storage unit, collect all. So that just automatically collects all of the science, which is a really nice feature. Once I figured out that the science containers do that, I've started using them a lot more. So we reset that, and we'll restore the Science Junior, and then he can actually get back in, and we can head off back home. I'll maybe take a little screenshot of this as well. So, that's we'll actually leave that up because there might be some low orbit. I think we've actually got the low orbit Iotan science. We probably don't have EVA reports for all the biomes, but I'm not going to hang around and get those. Yeah. Where am I looking? Ascent guidance. There we go. So we do want the maneuver plan out, but what we want to do is we want to take off. We want to do the opposite of landing. Well, we're going to take off so we can go and land back home. Let's put it that way. Let's get the gear back in. And you actually get a bit of flickering from the, I think that's the engine lights mod, which it adds like lighting effects from your engines, which is quite nice. Right, so this is in space near Iota's skids. I think that just counts still as in space near Iota, which we do have. Oh, look at that, by the way. That's different. Hello, I hadn't noticed that. Look at that. The mystery goo containers. This is all Ven's stock parts revamp, which I saw on Rocket PC Gaming's channel, because I hadn't seen it before previously. And that looks a bit different as well. Look at that. That's really cool. So yeah, Ven's stock parts revamp. If you're starting a new career mode, I highly recommend it. Or even just, you know, starting a new sandbox or whatever. So yeah, between that and KW rocketry, I've got some very nice parts going on without it being too much. I did think about getting B9 as well, B9 Aerospace Pack, which again has some nice parts, but it just adds so much. I suppose I could not be lazy and maybe go and try and pick through the parts that I actually want from the config files, but I am lazy, so I've decided not to use it this time round. But I have used B9 in the past, and especially if you want to make really big things, B9 is the way to go. When Robaz does his big, silly, scaled things in Kerbal Space Program, a lot of those parts are B9 Aerospace. You want to see if you can recreate North Korea in Stellaris? You probably can. My current Stellaris thing, which is I'm having a blatantly cheaty playthrough of Stellaris at the moment because I just wanted to see the new features from Utopia. But yeah, I created the culture, which seemed appropriate because it's the bank's update. So therefore, why not create the culture? And I'm not 100% happy with it, but that's more to do with the limitations of Stellaris itself rather than like the implementation of the culture that I've come up with. One of the things that would be nice, and maybe someone might mod it at some point, but ring worlds in the Utopia DLC, they're full-scale ring worlds. So we're talking Larry Niven, massive the structures that girdle the equator of an entire star. And what Banks did with his culture novels is he came up with basically smaller scale versions called orbitals, which are in the orbital path of a planet that goes round the star. So they're not girdling the star. It's a much smaller structure, still really huge, but a lot smaller, and it just follows the orbital path of a planet. And so it'd be really nice to like have a planet that's not doing anything and go, right, I'm going to replace that with an orbital, and have it maybe count as the in terms of the tiles, just have it count as a single world. Because the habitats are nice. I like the habitats. I've gone a bit nuts building the habitats, but they only count as a 12-tile planet. So it'd be nice to have something that was a bit intermediary between the huge scale ring world, which is like 4 25-tile planets, to like fill something in the middle. And I was also a bit disappointed that Dyson spheres are purely energy producing structures, because I mean, they've appeared in novels several times, in sci-fi novels several times, but generally speaking in sci-fi novels Dyson spheres are used as like inhabited structures. But the thing with I suppose the thing with a Dyson sphere is that you're talking so like a truly insane amount of surface area, like so much surface area that you really can't comprehend it. So in terms of Stellaris, you either have to have Dyson spheres be unrealistically small in terms of the amount of inhabitable space, or they would just be kind of game breaking, because they would be worth so many planets worth of tiles that it would be nuts. So they are purely energy generating structures. It's nice that they're there, but it kind of feels like a compromise. I don't know how Halo did it, but that's how the Culture did it with not Lagrange points, but they are actually orbiting the stars that they're around. Right, I'm just catching up with chat while I was. Oh yeah, I should have pointed that out. Yeah, Jade of Mart did the B9 as like the big parts have been hived off from the main pack. I suppose you could call it a Dyson ring, Jade of Mar. I'm not sure. Like he just called them orbitals because they occupy orbital slots and they're still giant rings. But anyway. Oh, the sun is called Zero. Okay, that's good to remember. Could you build a ball cube in KSP? Go and look at oh, I've forgotten his name now. Rob Az. Go and look at Rob Az's The Cube videos. They're actually some of my favourite like silly KSP videos that anybody's ever done. Right, so we're in orbit. I should stop yakking now. We're in orbit. We actually need to get back home. Also, it's still. No, that's still spaced near Iota, so we can actually turn that off now. Science here and now, because otherwise it'll just interrupt the warping as we go. Return from a moon. Oh, we'll actually adjust on the fly once we've. Okay, so oh, we're going to have over 1,000 meters a second delta V. Yeah, we can decelerate into orbit and have a nice gentle re-entry. Possibly, I mean, a lot of the big mods, Chaser, like the long-running mods in KSP, most of them aren't being updated and managed by the people that started making them originally. Because KSP has been around for a while now. So, it kind of makes sense because people move on, you know, they want to go and play different things, and generally the more popular mods somebody offers to step in and take the reins. And I was actually having this discussion with a friend of mine the other day in the context of, I think it was EU4 mods or possibly Stellaris mods, because Stellaris is still at the stage where they're putting out the patches reasonably regularly, and of course that breaks a lot of the mods. And it might have been EU4 actually. Yeah, it was the Voltaire's Nightmare mod, which is basically like it changes the world map of EU4 to the Holy Roman Empire, basically, and it's an incredibly detailed map of the Holy Roman Empire. So hundreds of provinces just in, you know, Germany and the top of Italy and Austria. But yeah, that hasn't been updated, I think, for the last 2 patches. So you get the more niche mods that sometimes are really good mods, but they're being done by a single person, and maybe they maintain it for a couple of patches and then they lose interest because it's a lot of effort to keep that going. So the bigger mods tend to do better because people step in, but sometimes there are really good mods that just don't get maintained and updated. Well, in Stellaris, Katrina, what you do is like you basically clear out everything in a solar system, but I don't think the game checks. I think even if it was just a single planetary body in a solar system, I don't think the game cares. As opposed to if there's, you know, like a dozen planets. I don't think Stellaris is that detailed, so it does strip out any bodies in the solar system and replaces them with the ring once the ring is done. But yeah, to my knowledge, it doesn't kind of check to see how much material it has available, if that makes any sense. Which it kind of should do, but it doesn't. Oh, in real life. I mean, in real life, you would need, yeah, a lot of stuff. Right, so we're going to. I mean, I could do like an aerobraking return, but honestly, we have so much delta V. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk forward a little bit. Oh, hello, Little Mark. Well, if Little Mark's here, I'm guessing that means Circon's finished. Right, so we want to... slightly adjust our periapsis. No, wait, that's the wrong... It's clearly the wrong control. Wait, is that really... Okay. It's one of those times when the controls become just a little bit fiddly when you're trying to keep everything in check to where you want it. Okay, 100 kilometers, that's fine. So we'll just have a quick check of the... Okay, we've actually burned a lot of the life support. More than I thought we would. But it is a several-day trip out to where we are, so I don't know how it calculates that exactly. And also I should check how we're doing with waste products. I'll be fine. But we still apparently have about 40 days worth of life support, so I think we're all right. Right, it really is being a bit finicky about the auto warp. I have to click the button multiple times before the auto warp will kick in. Oh, you were over at Max's stream. Okay, I know I saw you in Circon stream earlier on when I was watching, but that was rather earlier, I suppose. So yeah, this design would also work for CT, but I think next time round what I'll do is I think we fulfilled. I've just had a thought. Yeah, we fulfilled all the contracts, I hope. I've just had that thought. Wait, we had a bunch of Iota contracts, and I think I fulfilled them all. Oh, explore Iota. We didn't actually... Oh, oops. Science data from the surface. Okay, that's one we will fulfill. Plant flag. But we didn't actually go on a spacewalk near Iota. Oops. That's one we'll have to do at some point. That's fine. We'll be back at Iota again. It's just we won't get quite as much money out of this trip as I thought I might. But yeah, we'll come back with a whole bunch of science, though. So much science. All of the science. No, there's no timeout Little Mark command in this chat, sadly. You'll just have to time him out in your mind or something like that. Right, circularize at the next periapsis, which will cost us about 900 meters a second, which is fine. We've still got nearly 1,300 meters a second of delta V, so that's all right. We'll have a nice gentle re-entry as a result. We could just do a screaming straight from the moon orbital reinsertion and have a rather hot re-entry, but no, we'll make it nice and gentle because we can. So yeah, next time round it'll be the other system, but you know, this one had a live test. The Mark 1 Brett has managed to successfully not kill its crew, and so therefore Brett will now give me cookies next time. Because, you know, there was something really important at stake here. Because if this had gone wrong, no more cookies from Brett and Brett's girlfriend. So that would have been a disaster. No more cookies. But you know, this has a happy ending. There will be cookies, or at least, well, I might just be massively assuming here that there will be cookies in future. There's been cookies the two years I have been to Tankfest, so. I might just be making massive assumptions there. Maybe having made those assumptions, there will now be no more cookies. Maybe I've been hoisted by my own petard. or hoist by my own lust for cookies. It's not really a saying, but anyway, cookies. I've got some nice cookies in the house as well. There was a 2-for-1. Oh, not a 2-for-1. There was like a 2 for £3 of the nice co-op cookies last time I was in. So I've got some of those still lurking in my bread bin. Yeah, there's like chocolate and coconut, and then one of them's white chocolate. Because I'm weird. I like white chocolate, and I like coconut, and I like Hawaiian pizzas and UHT milk. So I'm a bit weird. There's no getting around it. Do tweak scale poodles produce... I'm not actually sure. I mean, we've got the solar panels. Yes, but it scales. So we're only getting a tiny electrical output from the tweak scaled poodle engines. So yeah, you absolutely would not want to rely on those to give you your electrical output. So most of what we're getting is from the solar panels. But we had, I mean, I probably had more than was necessary in terms of battery capacity. But I've had situations in the past where I've accidentally killed Kerbals using TAC life support because the solar panel placement, you know, I'd warped forward in time and the solar panels got out of contact with the sun. And when you're in time warp, the window in which you can do something about that is incredibly narrow. I have in the past, you know, if you catch it in time, you can have your Kerbal get literally out of the capsule and use their RCS fuel to nudge it around so the solar panel is then pointing at the sun. But in this case, I mean, we've gotten as far as unlocking the solar panels that actually unfold, so that was probably never going to be an issue with this design. Yeah, some of the engines don't. Some of the engines actually don't. Oh, well, Brett, I mean... One of the things, I'm not going to Tank Fest this year, I don't think. If I wanted to, I would be leaving awfully late in terms of booking accommodation. But yeah, I've taken the decision, having been the last 2 years, which has been great fun. And I would like to go and see the Tiger thing they're doing this year, because they've got all of the Tiger chassis tanks. And I think they've got the Tiger 2 coming this year as well. I don't feel up to it this year just because it's so busy apart from anything else. I can actually better afford it, more so than the previous 2 years. Like even if Wargaming wasn't going to invite me, I could probably still afford it even myself. But yeah, I just don't feel up to it really. So I'm thinking of taking a break this year and then maybe coming next year. Wait, was Aging Jedi a fan of the M3 Lee? Okay. I mean, I guess somebody somewhere has to be. I mean, the thing with the Lee is that the gun's actually pretty good. It's just the rest of the tanks not so much. I remember when the Lee and the Grant first came into War Thunder, they were actually kind of overpowered because they had so many crew members, and that matters in War Thunder. And they had both guns available, which again matters in War Thunder. So yeah, but they didn't let that last for very long. They did nerf that relatively quickly. So we're nearly there with this burn. We started off with about what, 0.16 thrust to weight, and having gone through most of the fuel, we now have 0.37. Now we're back in the Gale sphere of influence. So, yeah, these are not powerful engines, but they are very efficient. And that efficiency has meant that I had more than enough fuel to come back and come into a nice orbit around Gale. Not quite an equatorial orbit, but anyway. So, yeah, we're not going to have a lot of fuel left, but it's enough to deorbit, and that's all that matters. And then we can choose where we want to deorbit. And I think the Space Center is on this coast? Or am I getting completely confused? Is it on the nighttime coast? Maybe? I don't know which coast is which at the moment, to be quite honest. I don't think it is this coast. I think it's the other coast. But that is all in darkness at the moment, so... I'd rather bring this down on the daytime. There's actually... Are you looking up... Well, I wouldn't say it's near me, CyberWraith, but yeah, there's actually 2 co-op stores in Stornoway. There's a little one, and most people will know co-op stores as being a little, like, convenience shop-sized thing. Yeah, there's actually a big supermarket-sized co-op as well. It's one of the biggest in Britain, as far as I know, and it's one of the 2 supermarkets in Stornoway. So yeah, I do a lot of shopping there, but Tesco is the other one, and Tesco actually do home deliveries on the island, which is not something the co-op does. So sometimes I get the home deliveries from Tesco. Just every so often, I get all the bulky stuff from Tesco. Yeah, you're getting all the domestic information today. I've been to buy shoes, I've been to the co-op. Oh, it's an exciting life here in the Western Isles. Anyway. Right, I think we'll just bring this down somewhere. I don't think we're going to bother with... you know what, we'll try and bring it down over land, because bringing it down over land means we can actually use our landing gear, if I do it right. Oh no, wait, I can't use the landing gear, because the landing gear... Okay, on the other design I could use the landing gear, but not on this design. On this design the landing gear is actually on the outboard tanks, so it's just going to get sloughed off with the rest. In fact, okay, in which case we'll come down over water. Oh yeah, there's a spa in Stornoway as well. Oh, okay, yeah, these are empty pods. Actually, one of them is not an empty pod. That one, that's an astronaut that we have to rescue. So let's come down around about there. That'll be in the ocean, and what we can do is we can time warp so we hit the top of the atmosphere, and then maybe burn off this tiny bit of extra. Yeah. Well, they deliver all over the island, Brett. That's the thing with like, that's why it was a big deal when Tesco started doing home deliveries, because they actually deliver all across Lewis and Harris, but they have set days. So they have a day when they do Harris deliveries, and they have a day when they do West Side deliveries and that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, the co-op does have a delivery service, but basically you have to go in and buy the stuff in the store, and it's like a you buy it and then you say, right, I want you guys to deliver this in your van, kind of thing. Oh, didn't mean to do that. You saw nothing. I clicked the wrong thing. I was gonna bring the antenna back in, and instead I've transmitted science data. Oops. I didn't mean to. Stop transmitting. Stop. Stop. No, stop. I have to click stop on each and every one. God damn it. Right, retract antenna. Yeah, that means I'm going to get less science. Oops. I clicked the wrong thing. Oops. Never mind. It's fine. Well, talking of science, can actually get a tiny bit more science, apparently. So, yeah, that was completely intentional, and I definitely meant to accidentally transmit all of my hard collected science. But you know what? Screw it. That's fine. That was a user error. So there we go. There's the final separation. Those don't have any not panels, parachutes on them, so those will just burn up. And we are now basically a falling ballistic object, and we're just going to splash down in the ocean, and nobody's going to die, hopefully. So we do have an ablator this time, but we don't really need it for this kind of re-entry. So we'll use a bit of the ablator, but it's certainly not a necessity. Yeah. Oh well. So I'll have still got a bunch of science, but I mean, for a lot of the experiments like that, you only get about, what, 60% back. So it basically is science that I will have to go back to get the rest of, kind of thing. But it's fine. It'll be enough science to unlock another node or two, I expect. We're also going to start hearing noises fairly soon as well, that we're back into the atmosphere. So, yeah. All in all, apart from a couple of mistakes on my part, the design works fine. I think the only kind of bumpy parts of this mission were bits where I goofed in some way, including that. But this is definitely not the worst goof I've made in KSP on stream. I didn't make anybody get out during re-entry, for instance, which was one of the earliest KSP streams when I killed somebody by accidentally hitting the the EVA button instead of the IVA button, which is not something you really want to do during re-entry for some reason. Anyway, so yeah, this should be fine. And those parts, I mean, I released them when we were on the suborbital trajectory, so they will, they'll just burn up as far as the game's concerned. I could have put some parachutes on them, and the recovery mod would have gone, here's a bit of funds back, but I don't know, I just decided not to. I don't have to recover every single stage. We're not hurting for money that badly. Anyway, so, there we go. Through the worst of the re-entry, we used like 20 ablator, which is barely any. We still have over 100 ablator, or just under 100 ablator, rather, on that heat shield. So, it's just a matter of coming back down now. I wonder if we could... Might as well collect the data from those... Yeah, I don't think there's any... I think I've done a splashdown, so I don't think there'll be any additional data, but there might be one or two extra tiny bits of science I can get when we actually splash down in the ocean. So yeah, it's like the core of it, it's not a bad looking craft, and it was the best way I could think of to have this design and then not have a bunch of stuff on the bottom. Because I like quite compact landers, but that meant making it, you know, wider rather than taller. So 10,000 meters, and as we're coming down over the ocean, of course, it's oh, there's like a seamount over there. Can we see that on the map? No, that's a cool little feature. Yeah, there's a little volcanic seamount. Well, I say little, it's probably quite a big volcanic seamount. But yeah, I was saying a thing there. I interrupted myself because I saw a seamount. Anyway, something. It was probably something important and profound. It usually is. Okay, see you, little Mark. Thanks for tuning in. I'm wrapping up the stream soon anyway, so you're not going to miss any huge extra amounts of interesting stuff. So I guess we can pop the drogue chute. Which again looks a little bit different. Oh yeah, that really does look different, doesn't it? So again, Ven's stock part revamp. And the drogue chute actually properly looks like a drogue chute. It's not just a differently coloured parachute. That's quite cool. I like that. That's really nice. Because normally, like in vanilla KSP, the parachutes just look like solid parachutes, or like the drogue chutes just look like solid parachutes. But no, that looks like a proper drogue chute, which is obviously, you know, it's meant to slow you down rather than, well, it's meant for initial braking. So this is the last little float down. We can actually time accelerate this a little bit. But we have to be very careful not to be time accelerated when we hit the water, because bad things can happen. So this was overall a very successful mission, and I did goof a bit with the science, but ultimately that doesn't matter. It just means I get a bit less science from this particular. Like, that's not enough to make me want to go back and redo things. No, okay, we've already got stuff from the oceans. So recover vessel. And generally speaking, I would declare that a success. Minor derps aside. So well done, Brett. You didn't kill everybody. You must be very proud. No, there's no, like, technically there's no rescue ships. And one of the things the EJSA does, which is, like, if he doesn't bring something down on the runway, and there we go, that's a whole bunch of ribbons and things. He builds vehicles that physically go and recover. He doesn't just hit the recover button. he will build vehicles to go and recover stuff and then bring it back to the space center. So that guy's dedicated. Like, if I'm in a certain kind of mood for KSP, I will go and watch him. But if I want something a bit more laid back, it's generally Rocket PC Gaming I go for. So, yeah, that's nearly 500 science. Bunch of funds. So we have enough science for a couple of nodes. More than a couple of nodes, actually. So we can get the rest of this row. And we can get one. Oh, yeah, okay. We can only get one of the next row. But that then puts me not far off getting one after that. And what I'll do is I think I'll decide later on what the next bit will be, because there's quite a few options on this next row of the tech tree. I did race ahead a bit so I could get all the mechjeb functions, or nearly all the mechjeb functions. But yeah, so that was a pretty successful mission. We got some nice contracts. I forgot to get the contract to actually get out and do a spacewalk, which was a bit oops. But yeah, that was okay. In fact, there's another contract. There's a contract for CT there, so we'll take that for some other time. So yeah, that was a pretty successful stream. We rescued some Kerbal Nauts, didn't kill any Kerbal Nauts, and we've been to our first planet, or first moon, rather. Our first non-Gale body is what I'm going for. We've taken our first steps off Gale. So, yeah, we're going to wrap it up there, and I'll do the usual thing and play out some music. Or I might not even do that, actually. I might just... Let's see who's actually online. Because if Rocket PC Gaming is online, we'll just host him. And you can maybe see what he's about, because he's playing GPP as well. Let's see who else. Well, he's actually hosting me, but somebody else is online, because there's suddenly lots and lots of people. Somebody called Des Valdez. Or Das Valdez rather. I don't know who that is, but anyway. Oh, Aussie in Space. He's streaming. See if I recognise any of the other names. I don't think so. We'll just host Aussie then, because I've watched his streams once or twice. Yeah, so thank you all for tuning in. If you missed anything, I will put the VODs up on YouTube, and there will be the link with the mods list below, now that I've finally gotten around to making one. Hopefully I have entertained you, and if I have, then that's pretty good. That's what I'm here for. The next stream, I don't know when it'll be, but it probably still will be Kerbal, unless I get the urge to stream Warships, which is always a possibility. But that's the two main things I'm kind of streaming at the moment. So hopefully it'll be less of a gap than the last stream, but no guarantees as ever. So thank you all for tuning in, and have a good evening wherever you are.